Today we have Ben Thomas here. He's the author of Jack Be Quick. It's a kind of a horror thriller that's coming out May 9th. And today we're going to talk to him about his writing process. So first of all, I'd love to know what made you fall in love with writing.
I don't know if there was one specific thing that made me fall in love with it. I remember, I think the earliest time, my parents will probably tell you I wrote when I was a little kid or something that I just don't remember. But I remember sophomore or junior year of high school in an English class trying to write. I wrote a story for an assignment and then I liked it, so I wrote another one and I wanted my teacher to read it, and I can't for the life of me remember the teacher's name right now because it'd probably be good to go there and give him the book because what I do remember is he wrote on the front page of that story, "It's too Hollywood, try again." I never forgot that. But that's about all I remember from that. And then I wrote for a couple years after that and showed some friends and my girlfriend and my brother, and then finally my girlfriend Erica and my brother Max, they kind of said, you should maybe send this somewhere and see if you can do something with it. And
Awesome. So his comment that do you need to get that?
No, it's just the dog.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So his comment that were too Hollywood didn't make you want to veer toward film or screenwriting?
Not writing anyways. I tried when I was going through the rough drafts of Jack. I was getting frustrated, and after like the 7th time trying, I think I tried it as a screenplay because Scrivener has that thing where you can write in script, and I was rubbish at it, so I said no. But when I did my undergrad at Eastern, and they had this thing called the Campus Film Festival, and you signed up for the program, and you had to have a director and at least one actor, and they gave you a camera and a MacBook and said you have a week to make a 5-minute movie, and then we're going to pick the top, I think it was 15, but they're not going to tell you who they are. You're going to turn them in, and then 2 weeks later they're going to show the top school. Cool. And I remember going there. Filming that was the most fun I've ever had. I think the blooper reel on that thing was longer than the actual movie, but we went there, and it was my brother, myself, my girlfriend, I think one or two of our friends were in the movie, and it was like the 4th or 5th movie, and it came on, and we just like lost our minds. So not writing, but maybe something else with movies.
Okay, very cool. That's interesting. Do you have a specific process for writing and editing and revising that you use?
I like to, not one in particular. I mean, I use a bunch of different programs. It's kind of like whatever I'm feeling at the time. I've used Google Docs to write stories. I've used Scrivener to write stuff. I know I can't take a lot of time off and then go back to something. Okay. I have to. So with Jack, if I took like 2 weeks off, I'd have to go back and read from the beginning, and then that opens up the whole edit as you go nightmare. And but that's with other things too. Like if I'm playing a video game and I'm 10 hours in and I don't play it for 3 weeks, I have to start over from the beginning. Or reading a book and I don't pick the book up for a month, I have to go back. Like I can't just pick it up. Okay. It's not that I remember everything. I just am not as into it, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. Got to get back in the zone. Do you give it to people to read as you write, or do you have people review it when it's finished, or what? When do you let people look at it?
So that's a funny question. Normally, no. Normally, I write it, and my girlfriend reads it, my brother reads it, although my brother didn't read this one because he's finishing grad school, and I didn't want to ask him to be, on top of your thesis and all that, read this book too. They tell me what's wrong with it, I fix it, and then I have some close friends and family read it. But Jack Be Quick, we were in Ireland, I think, last year for St. Patrick's Day, and I got this notification that there was going to be this Pitch Wars on Twitter thing, and I'd never done one before because I was never on social media, so I didn't even know these things existed. And I wanted to finish it by the time that happened, and it was only a month, and I think I was like 60,000 words in out of like 80. So I sent it chapter by chapter to Erica, and she just as I was writing the other chapters, she would send it back and say, you got to fix this, you got to fix this. And then nothing ever, I got a few hits on Pitch Wars, but then nothing worked out, thankfully, because then I got to deal with a great publisher. Yay. So it works.
We're so glad. That's interesting. So do you, So did she read it all in one chunk, or she just read it chapter by chapter?
She read that one chapter by chapter,
Okay.
and then I changed a lot of stuff once it got picked up and it went through the editing process and all that. Which, for like a first time writer for a book, you don't realize. You can listen to all the podcasts and read all the stuff you want, but you don't realize like how much stuff actually goes into it once it gets accepted. You think, oh, I just wrote this and now it's done and I don't have to do anything. That's not true. That's a major lie. So, but yeah, she read that. Long story short, yeah, she read that one piece by piece.
Okay, interesting. Well, I will be excited to hear what she thinks about it after all of your changes.
Yeah.
So you finished an MFA program, right?
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I went to Albertus Magnus College in Connecticut. I wanted to do an MFA. I thought it would help. It was a good experience. The Albertus one was kind of a hybrid program, so it was a lot of remote work for people who have full-time jobs. So I was working full-time at the time. And then you go to on campus and meet with a group like once every 2 months, once every month and a half or 2 months for a weekend. And it was good. I liked the program. It was a small group. And it was more of a creative process program than, say, like a structural grammar, that kind of program. So it was good for someone, because I didn't have a lot of experience with feedback because I never showed anybody any writing because I just didn't want to. And it was good to be able to, you learned how to take feedback from people who were there for different reasons. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So do you fall in one of the camps? Do you think writers need to have an MFA, or do you feel like it was nice but not necessary?
I think it depends why you want to go there. If you're, and I know there was a book that came out, and I can't think of who wrote it, but it was like MFA versus NYC, and it was this whole debate of, do you move to New York or do you go to an MFA program? And it's on the to-read list, but that's like, 500 books long, so I'll get to it eventually. I think if you want to go to an MFA because you think you're going to graduate, you're going to get a job in publishing or writing, or you're going to sell a book right away, don't do it. I think if you want to go to an MFA to help improve your craft, learn how to talk to different people, and especially if you're not comfortable sharing your work with people, if you want to learn how to do that, it is definitely very beneficial. But you gotta, like anything, you kind of gotta outweigh the pros and the cons and what you want to get out of it.
That's really good advice. Kind of going back to revising a little bit, one of the things that your book does really well is it layers a lot of different elements. So you've got Jack the Ripper, you've got addiction, you've got loss, you've got a medical thriller aspect, you've got a lot of things going on, which can sometimes work against you. I think some people think the more you throw in, the more interesting it will be, but that's not always the case. So you do it in a way that's really seamless. You have all these elements that work together really well. Is there a process that you use to keep the story from feeling overloaded?
Well, thanks, first of all, for that. And not one in particular. I think the biggest thing is, for me anyways, when I had scenes where so much stuff was going on, like say, there was the Ripper pieces and then there was the addiction pieces and and then the medical stuff, and that was all colliding in like one scene. You have to figure out which one is supposed to weigh heaviest in that scene. So if it was the Ripper lore, you write that first and you focus only on that, and then obviously you write the whole scene, but then you make sure that's like the pinnacle of it. And then when you go back and read it, you're like, okay, I kind of got to tweak this addiction part, or I kind of got to tweak this medical part, but you just make sure you do the one that you want to stand out the most in that area done first and done the most in depth.
That's good advice. So if you had one writing dream project, what would it be?
So gonna get made fun of probably, but to collaborate with J.J. Abrams would be the ultimate dream. I think he is a genius even before he did Star Trek and Star Wars. Doug Dorst collaborated with him and his company Bad Robot with a novel called S, and if anybody likes non-traditional narratives, go pick it up. It's fantastic. But pick it up new, because it comes with all these different things that you need to have to read the book, and it's fantastic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so in a writing or a film capacity, would you want to work with him?
I would be happy, grabbing a cup of coffee with him, so we could just start.
Yeah, I like it.
No, I mean, anything. I think from a creative standpoint, he's just the way he sees things. And he's got a TED Talk about mystery and writing and story. It's not only just like writing or filmmaking with him, it's like storytelling overall. And I remember one of the things I took back from it, he had this mystery box he got when he was a kid with his grandfather or something like that in New York, and he never opened it. And he had it on the TED Talk that it wasn't opened. And he was using it to illustrate the point that it's not what's in the box or what actually happens. It's how your characters react to it that matters.
Interesting.
So, yeah, that kind of stuck with me.
That's really awesome. All right, well, anything else you want to tell us about your writing process or a piece of advice for aspiring writers?
Just do what works for you. Like, there's so much advice out there and so many different ways you can do things, and people will tell you got to do it this way or you have to do it this way. Just do what works for you. And when you submit stuff, just follow the guidelines.
Okay.
So
Great advice. All right. Thanks, Ben.
Yep.